I can't get into that right now.
Right.
Short on time. But, so imagine that would be the case, and that was, a veritable, unlimited cornucopia of possibilities. And this is why also the dark side has a long-term perspective. And this is handed down all the way down to different levels, right down to embodiments of dark beings, that they have a very long-term perspective. We're not talking generations, we're talking eons and millennia. And so the potential to skip ahead an awful lot of things, I just need to right now quickly, and that is that the humans now are at a point where there are some of the human awareness potentially could develop into a new type of spiritual being. Some human awarenesses could become the nucleus of the missing piece that all these high self soul beings have been missing for so long. Think about it. If you are a high-level being, multiple level, just like a big person, many energy centers, many levels, and you have some sense that it's kind of dangerous, you just send a probe in, a little splinter, an aspect of yourself, to test the waters, just putting your toe in the water. And if it doesn't work, you withdraw it.
Right.
And very little, after a while, you do enough of the toe in the water, and pretty soon some nasty stuff from the water might get into your system, which happens.
Yeah.
Okay, but I mean, just as an analogy, think about it like that. It's a very close one. So as a result of the quick in and out toe in the water, so many of these larger beings or soul beings did not learn much of anything, are essentially clueless as to what's going on here. So in effect, their own evolutionary potential is incomplete. And that was one of the major attractors for the human vehicle in 3D on Earth, was to find a way for that completion, but at the same time it became fraught with so much danger to their very existence.
Yes.
By the dark forces.
Oh, yeah.
And so now we have a situation, and it's only occurred in recent years, where there's much greater conveyance of information and energies back and forth. And finally, the very higher levels outside this dark zone are getting the picture. I mean, it's astonishing, but, it seems like it's taken forever. But, that's from a human time perspective.
Right.
From their perspective, time is not that relevant.
Right.
Because they, too, have a long term.
It is.
Yeah, right. Well, and so the problem of the extensive suffering going on, this touches back on the original question. Was the original high-level creation insane and deliberately created, some means to torture itself and then tell itself, oh, this is a way to learn something about yourself? To me, this is perverse. This is self-abuse. This is not what creation is about.
It's a distortion.
But nevertheless, large numbers of humans have bought into this. But, there are those who are getting the picture. And so there's new avenues that are available. But at the same time, we're running out of time because this whole situation has to be closed down as fast as possible. And so the question becomes, how do you minimize human suffering during this transition period? How can you find some balance to assist those evolving human selves, and at the same time, work on that relationship between those human selves and the larger soul beings? And that three-way relationship is a very important one, and the idea is to get the most out of all of this. The question is, what has been learned? And this is why the more people, humans, can just think to themselves the deeper questions. How do they assess their human existence? And then consider even the totality of human existence. What has been learned? Because this is part of it, why wait until you're out of the body, into some, who knows what, higher dimensional something, because you know what? That question's going to come up. And so deal with it now. Never mind all this other stuff of governments and conspiracies and nuclear wars and all that stuff, because from the ordinary human level, there is absolutely nothing ordinary human level humans can do to change whatever the powers that be are going to do.
Right, but
this is a very radical different perspective than the vast majority of people who are talking about this.
Yes,
and this is not self-defeating. This really addresses, once you can get to that point, the possible solutions become more evident.
Yeah, I was just thinking in relation to what you just said that many people like Daniel Brinkley and others who have had near-death experiences have encouraged people to go through the life review prior to, daily if possible, but, definitely before they cross over into the next realms because they're not ready for it and they're afraid of it.
Stephen and Andrea Levine did this project where they were available for a solid year, 24/7, to help people who were in, life-death transition. And out of this came their later work of, what if you only had 1 year to live? There were no more third, fourth, fifth opinions. What would you do? How would you live? How does this affect your consciousness? Because that's really what it's all about.
It really
is the state of your consciousness as a spiritual being.
Yes.
And and just the mere thought of human being versus spiritual being is a falsehood. It's a polarity consciousness notion. It needs to be deleted.
Right.
You are a being.
Right.
What are you called to? What is your attractor?
Right.
Not what you're repelled by. We pretty much agree on that list.
Because what we're repelled by is often what is perceived to be outside ourselves. And when you're looking for a primary attractor, that tends to be, I would think, the motivations that bubble up from within one's essence.
Yeah.
And even Jay Weidner came out with a film on near-death experiences, and it was kind of an experiment for him to subvert the powers that be, because if people aren't afraid of death and they realize that there's a continuation, then they lose the fear that is being projected constantly through all the different media and through the electronics and various other things that they're doing.
I used to think that, but I'm not so sure about this. Well, here's what triggered it. One of my news, checking my morning coffee, which I enjoy my cup in the morning. There's a little notion that some Rome Italian film festival awarded their top prize for a movie. I don't care whether it was a black comedy or satire. It was about suicide, promoting suicide.
Oh, dear.
So I thought, what is going on with this? So on one hand, you think about some of the early teachings that said, now, if you're passing through the following dimensions and the portals, look out for those buggers over there and don't look them in the eye because they'll, it's like one of these fairy tale stories. And so it's one thing for people to say, yes, I'm aware that something continues beyond ordinary death. But unless you've been there and had the experience, and I feel that the model of a near-death experience is a very important one because the result is, real-life humans coming back, walking around, and they're kind of a living testimony to something on the other side.
Absolutely.
And it becomes tangible to some people, and, of course, people who've had it. And I don't want to go into the gradations in near-death experiences because many of them were exposed to a false light, but the point is that it did expand people's consciousness, at least, even if they were not exposed to, the higher levels. And that was very significant, and it's very important, but at the same time, it's not about, I'm not afraid of dying. It has to do with, again, what is your prime attractor? Because if the possibility exists for your awareness to maintain a certain integrity completely independent of having a physical body. And this is also why some of the out-of-body experience literature has some value, too, as at least an example for people. That however that is constructed, it's unique to each, of course. Light body, point of consciousness, who knows? But you can retain that sense of individuation. That's the important point. And depending on who you are and your experiences and your awareness and the strength of the energetics and all of this, that's the basis for the possibility of humans forming a nucleus for either a new kind of spiritual being, one connected to higher levels of creation, or as a nucleus for the soul being that's basically missing part of itself. How's that to chew on? to me, that's a very interesting situation, and one is not better or higher than the other. And this bears then directly upon the sort of choices humans who are more aware and more conscious are now becoming exposed to in terms of options, regardless of what occurs on this planet, short of the dissolution of 3D.
Well, right, of course.
Well,
now,
that's still a notion that has not been taken off the table, by the way.
Well, that's good. Since we're coming so close to the end, I wanted you to be able to, just kind of wrap up everything into one final statement. But I'm thinking that it's probably better for you to give out your websites and forum locations and share with people where they can find out more and how they can delve into this. In other words, we're doing oriented, and I think most of us want to know, well, what can we actually accomplish, and what is the right way to go? I mean, what is the most productive way to go during these times which seem to be so tumultuous and dark? So,
well, the pfcn.net website has got a whole section of articles and publications, and people can download them, and at some point we'll make a text version available. It's a lot of trouble. So that's all there, free for the asking, and, just wait for your download speed. And the Newer Summit Forums actually has a nice little keyword search engine, and there's an enormous amount of commentary there that's been accumulated over, 4 years that includes some of the stuff going on in the world as well. And many of these points that you've brought up about ETs and different interests and isms and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah, and it's a wonderful place to delve into this with some other people who are very spiritually and aware and more conscious, who are also asking these questions and other questions. And it's not that there are answers to them, but there certainly are ways to empower ourselves to see in new ways.
I think the most important thing is to focus on finding that, what is it that is an attractor, and to find your highest personal inner common calling, your highest commonality with yourself. It's just like it would be with a group. And stay focused on that. It's your own GPS. It's your own guidance point and satellite. You do not need to listen to what others say, whether it's channelers or the news media or anything else like that, because it's coming to your own theater.
Wonderful. Well, we've just run out of time, so that was a great way to empower everybody. And thank you again, Alex, for being on the show. It's always a delight to talk to you. And I look forward to reading your articles on pfcn.net.
Okay. You take care.
Thanks again.
Thanks. Bye-bye.